Hello, everyone. It's been forever. Man, you guys, where even to begin? You know, I've told my story now for the last month and a half. I've told it over and over again in so many contexts, from blogs to newsletters, social media, podcasts, and I'll link all of those resources, all of those updates in the video description. So if you missed anything along the way, you can, there's a lot of reading material and listening material. There's no shortage, that's for sure. It's safe to say this year has just completely obliterated and ravaged my life. And I know 2020 hasn't been the greatest year for a lot of people, most people. The short of it is, a couple months ago, I started experiencing some allergy symptoms, what I thought were allergy symptoms, and they quickly escalated to joint pain, to an eventual sinus infection, to eventual anemia and lethargy, and difficulty sleeping, difficulty even just moving around, taking a shower. It reached a point where I was staying at my parents' for a little while and got some blood work done, and the blood work was not kind to me, and I went to the hospital. I went there thinking like, okay, cool, they're gonna do a blood transfusion, they're gonna pump me full of antibiotics, and I felt so much better after just 6 or 8 hours in the hospital. First time I've ever been in the hospital since I was born, I'm pretty sure. But after 8 hours, there was no clear consensus what was wrong with me, like what brought me to that point. The only thing the doctors could go off of was a scan of my lung, and there was an 8-centimeter cavity on the top of my lung. And how did it get there? What infected that part of my lung? How? Why? And so what I thought would be a quick, maybe 24-hour hospital visit turned into 6 days of tests and blood work. I got my arms pricked so many times. I can't even tell you how many times. But at the end of that journey, all the tests and all the blood drawing and all the waiting, I got diagnosed with an autoimmune disease. 33 years old, and I have an autoimmune disease. It's called Granulomatosis with polyangiitis, abbreviated GPA for short, formerly known as Wegener's disease. And it's a bit of a shock. It's a bit of a shock to the system. 3 out of 100,000 people experience this, so it is super rare. It's a form of vasculitis, and basically the essence of what that means is this autoimmune disease goes after blood vessels, and in particular, it likes to go after the blood vessels in the lung, where it did a number on me. And it also likes to go after joints. It likes to go after the sinuses, where it also definitely impacted me. And it likes to go after the kidneys as well. Thankfully I was spared, y'all. I learned in the hospital when they did my body scan that I was actually only born with 1 kidney, and I never knew that until now. I feel like I should have known that, probably. Thank you, Mother. Thank you, Father. They had no idea either. Nobody knew. It was a big comedic surprise, but I can appreciate the dark humor of getting diagnosed with an autoimmune disease during the worst pandemic of our lifetimes. Like what a phenomenal time for my immune system to go berserk and attack my own body. Add on top of that, the immune disease that I get is one that likes to attack the kidneys, and I only have 1 now, I realize, so it's just poetic, isn't it? In all seriousness though, like I'm grateful to be alive. I'm grateful to have caught the disease as early as I did. I'm grateful for the quick diagnosis that I got, not just from 1 doctor, but several across multiple hospitals and specialists. Like there's a clear consensus for what the problem was and is, and there's a pretty clear path forward. The journey for long-term recovery with this disease is to get it into remission. And for me, the best case, or the best play, the best road that doctors have suggested is that I go on some immunosuppressants, which essentially, immunosuppressant, it's sort of in the definition. Basically, what's gonna happen is I'm gonna go back to hospital life, have an IV strapped into my arm, and I'll lay in a hospital bed for 5 to 6 hours as they pump this immunosuppressant into my body for once a week for 4 weeks. And the goal of that is to lower my immune system so that it stops attacking my own body, essentially. Targeting certain white blood cells in my body to stop the production of these antibodies that are going after healthy blood vessels all over my body. I could talk on this video probably for an hour and a half about all the layers of this diagnosis and this disease, the physical aspect, the mental aspect, like the concept of taking medication for the rest of my life, or at least these next several years, beyond these remission treatments. There's the spiritual aspect. Like one of my blogs that I wrote that's linked in this description is, am I fearfully and wonderfully made anymore? Because up until a couple months ago, I would have signed off on that and been like, yeah, man, the human body is incredible. What the human body can do is amazing. But then how do you reconcile? Like, how do you reconcile autoimmune diseases? How do you recognize special needs? How do you deal with cancer? How do you deal with all forms of disease and ailment and disability? And then there's the financial aspect of all of this. For the last couple of years now, I've been making my living doing several things, piecing together a lot of different paths to survive and to live, and maybe even thrive a little bit. My primary occupation, if that's what you want to call it, that's what I call it, is I'm the editor of this community, Your Other Brothers. Our website, yourotherbrothers.com, we have a blog, podcast, and I do videos over there occasionally as well. And it's just a community for men, and for women too, for that matter, but for men and women seeking after Jesus, wrestling with these issues of sexuality, gender identity. And it's been, the joy of my life, truthfully, to be the editor of that community, to host our podcast twice a month, and to have this incredible Patreon community supporting that effort, supporting my livelihood on a monthly basis. Yob, as I call Your Other Brothers, is an incredible thing, and I'm so grateful. Beyond Yob, my other significant source of income was driving for Lyft and Uber, and truthfully, I've really enjoyed it. I enjoy just being able to drive around my city here in Asheville, North Carolina. I get to know my city better. I've gone down streets that I never would have gone down otherwise, connecting dots in different parts of the town and region, and just becoming more connected with this place. And we attract a lot of tourists in this town, so people come from all over the world, literally. It's just really fun. It's a fun vibe. But getting an autoimmune disease, it's like tricky. It's tricky to drive in general, just to be in the same seated position for hours at a time. That's a little more painful and discomforting than it was in the past. But beyond that, the bigger issue is just being in such close proximity to other people, and with a deficient immune system, it's essentially not a good thing to do for the foreseeable future. And doctors have recommended that I not drive for Lyft and Uber anymore and let countless people into my car within inches of my face. So yeah, that presents a challenge. It presents a challenge financially, and already going into a hospital without insurance, that was already enough of a challenge. If that's where the journey ended, if I was only in the hospital for a day or two, that would have been enough of a chore to kind of catch up with financially. But yeah, the road unfortunately did not end at the hospital. It's still very much going weeks later, and it will continue for many more months. I've just been super blessed by people reaching out, messaging me from all spheres of my life, and super grateful for my friends who started this GoFundMe. And as of this recording, over 100 people have pledged over $10,000 to my medical expenses, and that's absolutely astounding. Thank you to everyone who's already given, and just know that it's absolutely needed. Yeah, I don't know what the ultimate final cost is going to be, or when that number is even going to be realized, but your generosity, especially during a financially just insane time, just so blessed by the generosity given by so many. As I look to the future, I used to drive for Lyft and Uber probably 10 or 15 hours a week. But with all this extra time, I have definitely felt like, from a practical standpoint, like what can I do? What can I do financially to better my situation, and to sustain myself beyond the generosity of a GoFundMe and beyond the funding of a Patreon page. So I'm a writer. Not sure if you guys heard. I've actually written 2 books, and in one way, people have been asking, how can you support me? And so if you can give on the GoFundMe, that's awesome. I really appreciate it. I truly do. And I recognize not everyone can, or you can't give as much as you'd like right now, and that's completely fine. But some other simple, just really meaningful ways that you can support me is through my writing, through the books that I've written. This was my first one, Struggle Central, the original, the OG, my baby. I wrote this in 2013, and it's a really quick, easy read, like a little over 100 pages. And it's been so well received. I've been, super humbled by all the messages and emails I've gotten in the aftermath of writing this book. So if you've never read this book, if you want to support me on Amazon, there's a link in the description to that as well. And if you have read it, or if you're about to, a really great way for you to help just like boost my brand and help me expand my reach is to leave that review on Amazon. As of this recording, I think I'm up to about 80 reviews. It'd be really awesome if I could hit those triple digits sooner than later. Like that would be a huge landmark to get 100 ratings and reviews on Amazon. So if you've never taken the time, it doesn't have to be a long review, just like a couple sentences, that's fine. But that really does help me out as I continue this journey and as I hopefully build it as an author. And then my other book, most recently, from 2017, is Running To, In Search of Home on the Open Road. And this was when I lived on the road for 9 months a few years ago, traveled all over the US and Canada, just had the absolute adventure of my life. It's something I'd always wanted to do, was just live on the road for a while. And I had no idea a while would be 9 months, but it was such an adventure. And so this story, a little bit more meaty, but filled with stories of people that I met along the way, and also my own introspections of trying to figure out where I belong and what is home? What is home? What does that even mean? What does that even look like? So same thing, if you haven't read this book and you want to support my endeavors as a writer, as an author, you can buy it on Amazon or lots of other online outlets, digitally or in paperback. And then if you haven't rated or reviewed it, that again helps me out in a huge way. In addition, something that I'm like really excited about is coffee. No, I'm not launching my own coffee brand, although that could be exciting someday. For a while now, I've been wanting to launch some sort of an online store and just, again, have an additional revenue stream, an additional income outlet. And there's like YouTubers, they're always plugging their merch, and it's like such a YouTube thing to do. And so I feel kind of self-conscious about it. But I also feel like there are people out there, I'm pretty sure, who would support a product like this and certainly support me. And during a time right now where my kind of work options are limited, I kind of am going full steam ahead with working on an online store and getting some products up and going. The flagship one being a coffee mug, which will look very similar, if not exactly like this, the color and shape, still to be determined, but I really like the slenderness of it. It's very distinct, aesthetically pleasing, I think. I was thinking, I have this catchphrase, struggle well. I end all of my emails. It's just something I picked up along the way. Like, we're all struggling in this life. None of us are immune to that. And some of us obviously have harder roads than others, whether it's physically, relationally, spiritually, what have you. But like the call of Scripture is to lean on someone greater than ourselves, to lean on Christ, and to struggle well and to take heart, because He's overcome the world, and we can too through Him. So struggle well, it's kind of become a catchphrase that I've used for several years now. I actually looked it up the other day. Struggle well is in fact trademarked by somebody else. So I've had this idea then to make it more communal, to make it more like less me telling you, it's more all of us together. I have this idea for a coffee mug that says simply the phrase, it's gonna look something like this. This is kind of scary. I've never written a Sharpie on this. I don't even know if it's gonna work. Oh yeah, there we go. Something like that. There we go. Something like that. Struggling well. And so, currently working on this design, not complete yet, but it's gonna look something like that. Basically, you drink your coffee and it's a reminder every morning, or whenever you drink your coffee, multiple times a day, that you're not alone. There are other humans all over the world struggling right along with you. We're all in this together, and let's do it well. Let's lean on Jesus. Let's give all of our cares to Him, and let's get caffeinated. And and let's journey together down this road of struggle and redemption. So yeah, so if you would be interested in that, please let me know, just to kind of give me some sense of like numbers of like how many do I order ahead of time, and then what do I sell it for, and how much, all figuring out all that stuff. I'd really appreciate the feedback on that. And hopefully, if this goes well, You know, this can be a product that remains on my website that people can order anytime. And then hopefully other products will get added along the way as well. In closing, it's been a whirlwind of a couple months. Like, this was not how I saw 2020 going. 2020, remember when it used to be this, like, it was the shiniest year since 2000, honestly. Like, it's symmetrical, and 2020 vision was something people were saying, and people just had such high hopes and optimism. I certainly did for this year. This year I was gonna travel to Alaska, my last state that I have yet to visit. I was gonna run a full marathon, something I've never done before. I've run a couple halves before. So it's just been a ravaging year all around. Obviously, getting an autoimmune disease was not on my to-do list for this year, but nonetheless, it happened. Here I am. And so now what? What do I do? Believe me, there's been a lot of angst and a lot of questioning to God, and a lot of now what? Like, literally now what? From a financial standpoint, from just a logistical standpoint, like, how do I fill my days? And honestly, I don't know the complete answers to those questions, but kind of the hints that I've been receiving just in prayer and journaling, pontification, and just thinking about ways to offset the income that I'm losing through Lyft and Uber. It's things just like very simple, like pouring back into writing, pouring back into storytelling, pouring back into Yob. And ultimately, before I got sick, before I felt incapacitated, like, making regular YouTube videos was something that was absolutely on my calendar and something that I was becoming more intentional about. There have been a couple videos lately that have picked up some steam on my channel, and that's been such an encouragement, and I absolutely want to continue doing that. And so if nothing else, you know, if I'm not driving for Lyft and Uber 15 hours a week anymore, you know, if I had those extra 15 hours to pour into making YouTube videos and writing books and designing coffee mugs and other products, both for my own channel and for your other brothers, like, that could be a really good thing. And this could be the impetus that I needed to get there. So we'll see. We'll see what the road ahead looks like. I have no idea. It's very unpredictable and it's very scary. But gosh, I'm so blessed by so many people in my life, from friends to family, faithful supporters around the world. Yeah, I feel the love from so many places. So thank you all of you guys for listening, for watching. Again, I appreciate all the support you can give. And if it's just praying for me, that is more than enough. Like, pray for remission. That is my word, my key word for 2020 now. My 2020 vision at this point is remission. And so if I can be in remission of this disease and kind of begin the next phase of the treatment process by the end of this year, I would be so thrilled. If you think of me, pray for me about that, and just for my spirits in the meantime, that I would continue to lean on the Lord and draw from Him during the chaos, the confusion, and the isolation sometimes. I love all you guys. Remember to struggle well. Love y'all.